So now that we have discussed the two big problems for U.S. LLCs that are owned 100% by Canadians, which is one is the double taxation and the other is the branch profit tax. Because if in case where it's managed by a Canadian person in Canada, so now let's look at the solutions. So this is so you can have we can discuss a couple of solutions here. This solution is for people. So the first solution is, of course, that you have in a scenario where you have not registered a US LLC, what are your options? In second scenario, we'll discuss if you do already have a US LLC, what options do you have available to correct the issue in terms of double taxation or the other issue of branch profit tax. So let's look in a scenario where you don't have a USSC, you're still looking for a entity type for you to work through in the US in order to make investments through, let's say if you're buying a new business or you're purchasing a real estate. You are opening up a new business. It could be an online business, could be e-commerce. That's another thing, or a Canadian corporation looking to set up on the US side. So if you have not registered a US LLC, the other two options that you have available is a corporation on the US side, which has the same status on the Canadian side, and also a LP. So you have two options. One is a corporation, a C corporation, also a limited partnership on the US side. These two entities have the same tax structure on the Canadian side, and you will be taxed in a similar way. Let's say, for example, now we want to focus on people who already have a US LLC or working through a ULC, didn't know about the double taxation, didn't know about the branch profit tax, and now are in a situation where they are stuck. So, what options do you have in order to rectify this problem? So, one options that you have is that you change the classification of a USLC from a pass-through entity to a corporation. So that means this becomes a C Corp. This classification is done with the IRS, not with the state, because the LLC is registered with the state. So the LLC still remains for state purposes, but for IRS purposes, the classification does change and it becomes a corporation. So when it does become a corporation, essentially you will have the same tax structure on the US side and on the Canadian side. That's one thing. And there are certain things that get into account before making the change. We do have to look at it in terms of how far have you gone and what exactly you have done so far. That's something that we still need to look at, but that's an option you do have available in order to get the status the same way. Or the second option is that to change the LLC uh, to a limited partnership. That is, of course, done at the state level. That is not just the IRS changes; it's also at the state level. The first option is only with the IRS, not at the state level. The second option, which is LLC being converted to a LP or limited partnership, technically it is a change at the state level and also with the IRS. That's number two. Or these are two options that you can do. Number three will be to reorganize it in a multiple layer structure where a Canadian corporation or an individual can own the US corporation and which can own the US LLC. That becomes more complex. It's not for everyone, but uh, you do have an option, but it's just a more complex and that needs to be a more complex structure that needs to be managed. You need to have more personnel on your team to manage this structure. The other option could be that, let's say, even if you don't want to change this to a corporation or don't want to change to LP, at the time of exit, you sell it. At the time of getting out of the U.S. market, you sell the whole LLC as shares rather than just an asset within the LLC. This will give you a better tax advantage too, and in terms of how the LC shares are being taxed on the US side versus also on the Canadian side. So these are a couple options. So of course there are more multiple options. Those are complex, will take a long time to explain, and not for this call. But again, three options available. One is to convert the LLC the way it's taxed as a corporation. So we're not changing any state change. We're not making any state changes, only at the IRS level. The second is to change at the state level to convert the LLC to LP, and also with the IRS. And third is to have a multiple year structure where multiple entities own, and then that's where the LLC can come in.